Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. If you think people are difficult, your business is going to feel difficult. If you think that people are flaky, indecisive, price sensitive, hard to work with, that is exactly what your business is going to give you. And most people don't question this. They just assume that people are the problem. This is just the way that it is. Clients are the problem. Buyers are the problem. The market is the problem. But what if people aren't the problem and the way that you see them is? I'm Ryan Gillen. This is The Uncensored Self, and this is part 3 of a series called The Business Beliefs I Do Not Subscribe to Anymore. And today we are talking very specifically about people and why the way that you see them is shaping everything in your business. So this is part of a series, as I mentioned. You don't have to go back and listen right now, but let me catch you up, okay? Episode 1 was about the idea that your business is driven by what you can hold, right? Your emotional capacity, your energy, your bandwidth is what you can hold in business. I believe that to be true. I think it dictates so much more about your business, your emotional capacity versus your strategy or your skill, right? Obviously, it's a harmony between the two, but I think that focusing on emotional capacity is by far a bigger priority, right? Episode 2, right? Most people are operating from lack. How business in and of itself, I talk about, is generated from lack. We have to go get something. We have to make people do something. We have to get them to buy something. We have to get to the job. We have to make things happen. And it has this really lack-based energy to it. So those are the first 2 beliefs that I really pulled apart what they are. But here's why these are stacking on top of one another and why listening to them in order is really helpful. When you are operating from lack, you don't just feel pressure, you actually start to see people differently. When you are operating people through the idea that you need to get something from people, whether you need to get something from someone is you need to get them to give you a job, you need to get them to hire you as their realtor, you need to get them to sign a contract for your services in your business, whatever that is, when you need something from other people, you start to actually see people differently. You can't help but not see them differently because you believe that you need something from them. And this lack-based business model is actually, I think, why some of us have really fucked up relationships with people. But what most people, I believe to be true about people, successful people, people in business, is believe that people are difficult, that it is hard to work with people. Some people believe that most people are stupid and uneducated and don't think for themselves, right? People don't value this. We have a lot of beliefs that our default beliefs about people when it comes to our business is that people don't value what I do. I see this a lot with women. We see that people are price sensitive. Everybody's looking for the best deal or maybe the cheapest option or the best value. We also have some default beliefs around people needing to be convinced. We have to convince them to buy from us, convince them to hire us, convince them to date us, convince them to whatever, right? None of that is true. None of that is true. But, and when I say true, let's talk about the definition of truth, right? True meaning it's true for everyone, right? It's not true that people are dumb. The default belief that people are dumb and they're uneducated and they don't think for themselves. Some people, totally, but not all people, right? Some people aren't going to value what you do. They're not going to want to pay premium prices for your services, but some people will. But we just choose this overarching belief, right? And this collective belief, and we let it drive. And so for many years of my life, I used to think that people didn't value what I did, right? I sold advertising. I started my career selling radio advertising when I was 21 years old. And the belief system that I was given is that radio was the red-headed stepchild of advertising, right? At the time, Yellow Pages was still the, 800-pound gorilla in the room. Yes, I'm dating myself, right? And then TV, it was Yellow Pages and print, right? So just print in general, and then TV, and radio was like of the big ones, that's what people thought. And so we were the least valuable. We made the least amount of money, and people didn't value what I did. So I had to go out into the world and convince them why radio advertising was valuable. Like that's literally how I learned to sell. And I've taken that approach into every single business. I believe that most people didn't value what I did. And if I could convince you of the value, and because I was good at convincing people of the value, I thought that's just how people were, right? So I used to think that people didn't value what I did. And so I had to convince them. And then I had a lot of tumultuous clients and I was constantly worried about results and was it going to be good enough, right? Like, don't worry, these patterns run deep for me, right? I used to think that people needed to be convinced. Like I said, they needed to be convinced. And I don't want to believe that anymore, right? Like, I don't want to have to convince people to see my value. I used to think about sales objections. I want to spend a lot of time talking about this. Not a lot of time, but I want to spend a little bit of time here because I grew up in sales. I think many of you know that. Like, I started selling radio advertising when I was 21. And then I got into sales training and development. So, like, I used to train people on how to handle objections when they told you they needed to think about it, when they told you they couldn't afford it, when they told you they needed to talk to their spouse, when they told you they were meeting with somebody else, when they told you they needed more time to make a decision, when they told you they weren't the one who was the decision maker. I used to teach people how to overcome objections. So, what do you fucking know? I expected objections and I consistently got objections on my sales calls. And I remember being fucking mind blown when someone's like, I don't handle objections. I'm like, what do you mean you don't handle objections? Well, like, first of all, I don't really get a lot of objections, right? Most of the people I get into sales conversations with, they want to buy my stuff. And I was like, that's a wild idea. And then the second thing was around, if they have objections and it's not a right fit for them, I'm not going to talk them into it. And I was like, say what? Right? Of course they're going to tell you that. You just have to convince them why they're wrong, because of course people are dumb. That's how I approached business. They need me to convince them they don't know well enough to do it on their own. And they don't value it because they're just people, silly people. They don't know what's good for them. I can't believe I'm admitting this out loud on my podcast, but this was how I viewed people in business. And I thought that it was just people in business, but of course that's not a thing, right? So how does that show up for you when you believe these things about people, when you believe that they're going to try to negotiate your commission? Realtors, you are the number one on this. You tell me all the time that people are constantly coming for your commission, right? But I have clients who don't have a lot of people who negotiate with them, and they also refuse to negotiate. They also have thriving businesses, right? So what shows up when you believe this about people, you over-explain, right? If you believe people aren't going to value what you do, you're going to overly explain why it is so valuable, right? I was constantly trying to prove why I was valuable, right? I was constantly in this getting energy of approve of me, like me, choose me, right? I tried to control the conversation because remember, people are dumb and they don't really value this and they're going to need to be convinced. So if I can just control the conversation, everything will be fine, right? And I was always preparing for the objection. I knew exactly how to overcome the objection. And what I didn't realize at the time is that that's not people. I wasn't seeing people clearly. I was seeing them through my frustration, my expectations, my programs, my experiences, and calling it fucking truth. We think we are reacting to people, but we're actually operating from a belief about people. And again, most of those beliefs are not ours, right? If nobody had told me that people didn't value radio advertising, I wouldn't have known any different. I would have just gone sold the shit out of it because I loved radio. Like I loved broadcasting and I loved advertising. And obviously the voice is my thing, So I wouldn't have known that, but people told me that. And so a lot of what I've learned to be true about people were things that people told me. I see this so much with realtors. I have a client right now who is actually becoming a realtor. She's going through certification. She works in the industry, but she doesn't have a license yet. So she's taking her class and she's telling me about these classes and they're constantly talking about how hard it's going to be and how much people distrust realtors and how hard you're going to have to work, right? So this belief system, these people are taking classes about how to be a realtor and they're literally from go being told that people don't value you, right? You're going to have to work really hard to get people to want to buy things from you. So that starts to shape your belief about people, right? If you believe that people are difficult, people are dumb, people need to be controlled, people need to be convinced, you're going to show up differently too. You show up guarded, right? Think about it. If you think that this person that you're getting ready to sit down and have a conversation with is going to want to tell you that your work isn't valuable and they're going to try to negotiate your rates with you, how can you show up open? How can you show up from a really aligned place? It's impossible. If I think you're going to tell me that I'm not good enough and you don't want to pay me, I'm going to show up guarded and defensive because I feel like I have to justify myself, right? Right? Again, if you think that people aren't very smart, you over-explain. Let me tell you, right? Most people don't get this. Let me tell you again. And you over-explain to people and it's like you're not confident because you're over-explaining. Right? If you believe that people are difficult, you try to control the outcome. You think that you actually have control over the sales process. I thought for so many years that by being so involved in the sales process, from cold calling to endless follow-ups to, really high-touch consultations where I overcame a whole bunch of objections and then followed up again forever, was me controlling the outcome. And it was not that. It was not that. How do I know that it wasn't controlling the outcome? Because the sales process happens now without any of that. I don't control my sales process at all. I barely do any follow-up, right? because I believe that people are completely capable of making decisions. At a point in time, I didn't, right? I didn't believe that people were capable of making decisions on their own because they were stupid and they needed to be convinced. But that's not what I choose to believe about people anymore. So that's not the experience that I'm having. If you believe that people don't value what you do, you then negotiate with yourself over your price, right? If you believe that people don't value what you do, and I see this a lot, I see this in marketers, I see this in entrepreneurs, I see this in real estate agents. I see this a lot of people, they just don't see this role as valuable. So then we think our price has to match that, right? We lower the price or we negotiate on our price, or we would like to charge this, but nobody else in the industry is charging that. And right now things are really tight, right? If you don't believe that people value what you do, you will lower your price. You will over deliver even if you don't want to. You try to prove that it is worth what you paid. And then you say it's their fault because they didn't value what you did, so you had to, right? Isn't it wild what our brain does? Like, are you mind blown yet? Because I was mind blown when I realized this, that holy fucking bananas, people behave exactly how I expect them to behave. So if I lower my price, over deliver, and try to prove myself, and I'm still not valued, I just create my own self-fulfilling fucking prophecy, right? If you believe that people need to be convinced, your sales conversations feel aggressive. Right? So many people are terrified to even have sales conversations, the consumer, right? Because they're afraid they're going to be pressured. But if you got on a call thinking that I'm going to have to convince this person that not only is the work I do valuable, but that I'm valuable, that's just it's a heavy expectation to put on a conversation with a stranger, right? If you believe people need to be convinced, your marketing is going to feel forced, right? You're going to be like, what can I say to convince them that? Like, that's not a high value question, right? But if you think that they need to be convinced, that's the question you're asking yourself, and then that's the work you're putting out. You're constantly pushing, right? They need to be convinced, so I got to push, I got to do more, because they need to be convinced, right? Do you see this? Do you see how your beliefs about people, what they're capable of, how they're going to make buying decisions, what they value, what they think of you and your work, that you think that is what's dictating the circumstances in your business, right? So how does this show up in real life, right? Let's talk about a sales conversation. If you go into a call thinking that this person can't afford it, right? It's possible my pricing is too high. I'm not 100% confident with my pricing, but it is what it is, right? How do you go into that sales conversation? First of all, you go in with an energy of needing to get something, which is instantly a lack-based energy, right? That was episode 2 of the series, right? So you're already in a lack-based space. I need to get something from you, right? You're not going to want to pay what I want to pay, so I'm going to have to convince you that it's worth it. So I start over-explaining, I start justifying, I feel like I have to prove myself. I don't feel like myself. And what winds up happening? They hesitate. And they use price as an objection because it's the easiest one, right? That's what happens when you think that somebody can't afford it, or they're going to push back on price, or they don't want to pay full price. You go into the call in a different energy and you get a different response, and then you blame it on them. But remember, life is not happening to you. It is happening through you. It is happening through you. You are the creator of your reality, your energy, your Wi-Fi signal. If you go in thinking they can't afford it, they will tell you they can't afford it. Okay? Let's use a marketing example. You think, I'm just not clear. People just don't get this. This is confusing. What I do is confusing, and it's really hard to articulate in a short form video or a social media post or an email, right? What do? First of all, you overthink. You chew the gum, the flavor out of every single good fucking idea you have because you're trying to help them get it, right? Maybe you oversimplify. Maybe you overcomplicate. Maybe you water down. Maybe you make it too difficult, right? And you wind up losing the right people because your assumption is they don't have to get it, so I have to help them understand it. What if you thought instead the right people get it? If you believed that my people fucking get it. When I talk about what I do, I don't care what it is. When I talk about it, the way I explain it, the passion I have about it, the interest that I have in it, people fucking get it. You show up differently, right? But if you think they're not going to, your marketing is going to look and feel completely different. And it's going to be very specifically catered to people who don't get it. Because remember, you get what you expect. You expect them not to get it and they won't, right? Clients. You think that clients are a lot. Clients are assholes. I work with a lot of people who think that their clients are the problem in their business, right? Like these people, they just have ridiculously unrealistic expectations. They have no idea what it's actually like. They're so emotional. This is my realtors. There's a lot of this, but I hear that. I see this in marketing agency owners, right? People have unrealistic expectations of the results. They put all the power on me and they suck, right? If you think, oh, if I get too many clients, then I'm going to be too busy and I'm not going to serve them well, right? If you think that there is a potential that that they're just a lot, you're going to start bracing for problems and looking for problems. You're going to naturally show up defensive. Like I remember, guys, when I was running a marketing agency, I would literally get on my review calls prepared to defend my data. Like I put it together, like, let me make my case, right? Because I believed that people didn't value what I did, and I believed they needed to be convinced, and I believed that everybody finds a problem in what we do and that they're a lot, and I'm just going to have to show up and make my case. So I showed up in defensive energy. Why do you think running an agency wore on me so much, right? And people tell you, Ryan, that's just the industry. All marketing agencies are like that. No, they're not. They're not. You can tell me, Ryan, my realtors, you guys are real big on this. Like it's just the nature of the business. You work with the general public. That's just what you get. Only if that's what you expect. Only if you think you don't have a choice. Only if you think you're not the creator of your reality. Only if you think you have to settle for anything instead of choosing what you want. Here's what's so important about this. You're not responding to what's happening. You're responding to what you expected to happen. And because you are the creator of your reality, your 3D reality continues to mirror back to you. You think people are going to give you price objections. You get on a sales call, you get price objections. You say, see, Ryan, I told you, right? I told you. I've had 5 sales calls this week and every single one of them has had an objection, right? Because you think that people have objections. What if you thought the people that I get on calls with, right? Some people totally objections. Some people can't afford it. Yes, some people aren't going to get it. But the right people, the people that I want to work with, the people that I'm excited to work with, the people that light me up to serve, they fucking get it. They show up, they're ready, they say yes, they move fast, and they are so committed to this process, right? What a big difference is that going into a sales call? The circumstance is exactly the same, right? Both of them are a sales conversation. One of them is like, I have to defend my case, convince you, you dumbass, or I am so excited to have a really cool collaborative conversation with people who value what I do and see if we're a fit to work together. How do you show up the best version of you, right? Here's what's really important, guys. People meet you at the level you meet them. You expect resistance, you get resistance. You expect objections, you get objections. You expect confusion, you get confusion. That's why I say over and over again, going back to episode 1, they're not responding to your strategy. They're not responding to your script. They're responding to your energy. Law of vibration, law of attraction. Universal law works 100% of the time. So you can say, that's why 5 people can run the exact 5 sales script and get different results. And you're going to say, well, but maybe it was the person on the other end. Do we know if that's true? People are responding to your energy. There is nothing wrong with people. Okay? And then this really ties a lot into episode 2, right? Lack. Because most business advice is rooted in lack. When you operate from lack, again, you need something from people. You need them to say yes. You need them to hire you. You need them to refer you. You need them to like, share, or comment. You need them to choose you. So the energy of I need something from you, again, instant lack and an expectation of people. They have the power and you don't. Isn't that wild? You think that they have the power and you don't, and that's how you show up. If you need something from somebody and they have the power and you're trying to get that power from them, what does that feel like energetically? Even just when I say that, right? Versus, I don't need anything from anyone. I get to work with people on this particular thing. And the right people say yes and the wrong people don't, right? I don't need to be chosen. I know my value. But what winds up creating, when you need something from somebody else, it creates pressure, it creates attachment, and it creates subtle control. It's not a good feeling. Think about when you have been in a situation where somebody needed something from you energetically and you knew it. How did it feel? Being on the other end of it, it felt fucking gross, right? And that's what we are inadvertently doing by our judgment of people. They don't get this. They don't understand it, right? So this is the difference between chasing business or choosing right fit clients, right? Needing a client versus being grounded in the value that I offer. People can feel it. You know that you have felt it, right? So here's what I've changed, right? So I told you I don't have this belief anymore, right? I don't believe that people are the problem. I think that everything is always working out for me. I think that the right people say yes. I think that people who aren't ready yet say maybe or later, and that some people every now and again say no, and there's a lesson in it for me, right? That's what I believe to be true. I believe that people are responding to my energy, my beliefs. I think I'm the responsible for bringing my belonging, my belief, my worthiness, my value to every single sales conversation. I don't need it from the other person. And if they are fit for what I offer, if they're excited about it, if they want to buy it, they will say yes, they will value it, they will move fast, they will make a decision, and that is it, right? That is the way I approach sales. And it is night and day. I mean, literally 180-degree difference from the way that I used to, where I had to go out, I had to find them, and I had to pretend to like them, and I build a relationship, and I had to convince them, and then I had to you can feel it, right? So my old way, right? How did I used to do it, right? Prepping for calls, thinking about objections, trying to close the deal, trying to say the exact right thing, right? Like be what they needed me to be in the moment, right? Like that's what I thought sales was. And now for me, it's not it at all. It is a clean conversation. There is no convincing. My job is to hold up the mirror and let people make a decision. And I'm not saying like, because what you're asking is like, oh, so if Ryan, somebody says you can't afford it, you don't try to overcome that objection. I really don't. I really don't. What I say instead, if somebody says, well, I don't have the cash for that right now, or I need to think about it, or money this, or whatever, I say, hey, I hear you. Would you like a different perspective on that? Are you open to a new perspective on that? Right. And then I will coach like I would coach in a sales, like in a coaching conversation. It's literally what I do for a living. Right. If they want to be coached, if they tell me no, like, no, thank you, I'm not interested, I'm not convincing them. Right. But if I say, are you open to perspective? Right? Like in line with this conversation we have here today, are you open to a different perspective? That's how I'm coming at it. If they say, no, thank you, like I just legitimately, I don't have the money, I can't afford it. I say, okay, great. I wish you the best of luck. Right? So I really don't anymore. I let people decide. I also don't do a lot of follow-up, right? I'll do some intuitive follow-up. And sometimes for my really busy clients, I'll give like an extra text message or two, but I really don't because again, my ideal client, she's ready. She's excited. She wants to do the work. She wants the transformation. I'm not chasing her down. Right. So I think that's a really important part of this. I don't leave conversations wondering if I said the right thing anymore. Right. I spoke from my heart. I spoke openly. I spoke my truth, regardless of what the person on the other side of the table said. And when you start shifting the fact that it's not people, that it's you, right, that you get to decide, your marketing actually winds up becoming expression, right? Just sharing your thoughts, sharing your ideas, sharing your experiences, not performing to get people to like me. Most marketing out there, let's be real fucking honest, is a performance. If I perform the right way, you will like me. If I say the right thing, you will choose me. If I make the other guy wrong enough, you will hire me, right? That is literally marketing in a nutshell, right? But when you come from this really energetic, grounded place, it's just, here's my experience. Here's what I know. Here's how I help people. Here's how I serve people, right? This just naturally shows up in this really natural expression of you talking about what you do, not trying to make somebody else right or wrong, right? Sales, again, it becomes clean and not convincing. The conversations go faster. People say yes faster. They move faster, and the no's move faster too. And no's aren't a problem. Because if they're a no or a not right now, it simply means it's not aligned because everything is always working out for you, right? My favorite thing that happens to my clients when they start doing this work is that the client work feels easier. They can actually handle more clients. When you expand your emotional capacity, episode 1, when you operate from an energy of service, right? Not from this place of getting, of this place of giving, of this place of serving. And then you see people as completely fucking capable of doing the things that you need them to do. Holy bananas, does your client load feel different? I have clients able to handle like literally double the number of clients they were before because of this change in and of yourself, right? Just these first 3 episodes, they've been able to double their workload. This is what we talk about when people say that you can do more in the same amount of time. That's why. Because the clients that you attract when you are in the energy of it, right? When you're not trying to tell them that they're dumb or they're stupid, when you're not coming from a place of lack, when you're not trying to over-explain or prove or perform, right? The clients that you attract, they're good clients. They're great fit clients. They trust you. They value you. They value your work because that's the way that you show up for them. It changes everything when you change the way you see people. Because again, people come in already decided. Your sales calls, I have clients whose sales calls like lickety split, right? There's less back and forth. There are fewer objections. There's not a lot of drama in the client relationships. I see a ton of that with my clients right now, that like they're able to serve at such a higher level and they're able to serve more people because they don't have so much static about managing bullshit clients or clients who don't respect them or all of that. I literally spent a lot of time today coaching a client around, if clients are giving you hell, like you either have to figure out, were they misaligned when you took them on, right? Did you take on misaligned clients? Maybe yes or no, or maybe you just outgrew them. And it's like, you got to get on board in some example, right? But there winds up being so much less drama and more ownership of the process. If I have a roster full of asshole clients, or if everybody that I interact with is a jerk, I have to own that. Right? It's so great. But the point here is that you stop chasing people and you start connecting with the right ones when you stop seeing people as the problem, when you stop seeing them as somebody who needs to be convinced or somebody who isn't smart enough to make their own decisions or somebody who can't be trusted with da-da-da-da-da-da, right? The hard truth I have for you here is if your clients feel difficult, if your business feels heavy, it's your expectation of the people. If everyone you talk to has a price objection, it's your expectation. If everybody wants something out of scope or everybody wants more and they want to pay less and everybody wants to wheel and deal, that is your expectation of people. But this is not from blame. I don't want you to take this and hear this and then blame yourself. This is a place of power, because the moment that you change how you see people, your entire business changes. Your entire business changes when you see people as partners, as collaborators, as people to serve, as people who value you, as people who you get to do life with, as people you get to do business with, the people you get to exchange with and spend time with. Like, think about that approach to business. And guys, I have operated in both. I have operated in businesses that had a lot of clients that were got you energy, right? Let me go get you, all right? Let me hunt you, kill you, whatever, and drag you across the line and cook you up myself, right? Like, do those businesses make money? Yes. Are they a fucking shit show? Absolutely, right? I've also been in businesses where it is just this beautiful collaborative, here it is, do you want it? Yes or no? And it flows beautifully. And there is very little client drama. And even when the drama pops up, it's really easy to work through because the alignment is already there. When you're with a misaligned client or in a misaligned contract, and then you're hit with shit from the outside world, you're already off kilter. Change the way you see people, and your entire business will change. Okay. I feel like we're still just getting started on this series. I love this series so much. I know I gave you so much to think about today. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. Coming up next in the series, we're going to talk about marketing and sales. I hit it a little bit here today, but holy bananas. You guys know I spent my career in marketing and sales. I can spend so much time telling you the differences that I have, right? We're going to talk about effort. We're going to talk about control, right? But you have to remember, all of this is shaped by what you believe about yourself and what you believe about people, right? Business is driven by what you believe about yourself, your identity, and what you believe about people. If you are realizing that, holy shit, I have built my entire business in the way that these last 3 episodes have lined out, that I've lined out for you, you're not alone, guys. I did this too. I've done this over and over again. I work with clients who do this all the time. But if you can now see that seeing people differently would shape your experience differently in business, that's where the work begins, right? That's why I so often say it's not about fixing your strategy. It's not necessarily about changing what you're doing. And most of the changes that my clients wind up making is we actually do less. Most of my clients are over delivering in a really big way. You probably are as well, right? But changing how you see people, that's the work. Changing how you see business, changing how you experience business, changing how you experience all of this. If you want to explore the work, if you want to explore what it would look like to have support going through this journey, if you're ready to have a conversation, what it would look like to run your business from a completely different place, let's have a conversation. And I cannot wait for the next episode in this series, which is very specifically marketing and sales and why most of it feels so fucking gross. See you there. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours. And your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.